The meek shall inherit the earth. And meekness is cultivated when we go inside. Meekness is cultivated when we actually engage in spiritual work. I trust and I pray that you're not wasting your time, because time is all we have. And so it's important that we use our time wisely. And it's important that we invest our time wisely. How are you spending your time? How are you investing your time? For me, things have changed. I don't know, over a decade ago now, but things significantly changed for me with regard to how I spend my time. But first had to come the understanding of the value of it. I feel like most people don't really appreciate the time they have and don't really understand how much their time is worth. When you really understand how much your time is worth, how valuable it really is, you begin to spend your time differently. I used to go out clubbing, I used to go out drinking and hanging out and having a good time. There's nothing wrong with that. I would not take a day of all those hijinks and shenanigans back. I had a blast. But at some point, an intuition begins to awaken inside of you, and if you listen to that intuition, then you are guided to make some changes so that your priority in life begins to become, for lack of a better word, spiritual. You begin to step into a spiritual chapter of your life. And in the stepping into that with sincerity and with devotion, in the stepping into that, you begin to spend your time in different ways. You begin to invest your time in different people. You start to see life differently. You see, because until that point, we do a pretty good job of ignoring the fact that these bodies are going to die. And one day, you're going to leave this body. Before your spiritual life, you do everything if that's possible, to ignore thinking about this. Life is sweet precisely because it is impermanent. Life is beautiful precisely because we have limited time. And the goal that we all are here to attain and reach, even if we are unaware of it, the goal is worth everything. It's worth everything. And what that means, it's worth giving up all of this, despite our attachment to it, despite this being all we know, despite there being fear inside that maybe when this body dies, nothing else is left, despite the fear that maybe I'm going to go to hell because of what people told you growing up. Despite all of that, the prize is worth it, and it is not easy. It is not easy to reprioritize your life as a spiritual person and have your spiritual life become your priority, because everything in this world, everything here is designed to take your attention away and keep you focused on this. Everything in this world's here to gratify and satisfy your sensuality, your taste buds, your eardrums, your eyeballs. All the senses are here to have a party. And you know what? It is a party. It's a super freak party. And everybody's got their freak flags out, and we are having a good time. But at some point, we'll have enough of this. Because this, it's all right. We got our sunsets and we have our moments. We might find love. We might have some connect with somebody through our heart chakra, and that anahata chakra opens up and you feel a little bit of love from somebody, although it is conditional love. When you feel a little bit of love from somebody, that feels nice. But it's just a taste. It's just a taste of what is to come. Remember that prize we were talking about. Remember the goal we were talking about. The one that's really worth it, worth giving up all this. And you can't just give this up. You can't just stop eating all the sloppy food. You can't just stop drinking all the alcohol and doing all the drugs. You can't just snap your finger and it's done. It takes work. And it's a beautiful work. It's a work. It's soul work. It's a work that liberates you. And this work is passed down from all the teachers, all the masters of antiquity, Christ, Yeshua, Shakyamuni Buddha, Sri Krishna. We witness it in great disciples like Mary Magdalene. Come on. We've had examples. We've had people point the way, but are we ready? Are we ready to spend our time wisely? When you begin to spend your time wisely, you begin to walk down the path of wisdom. And the path of wisdom leads you home. The path of wisdom leads you in one direction, and that direction is inward. You see, there's a lot of distractions in this world, like we were just talking about, vying for your attention, asking you to look over here.
This month, I celebrated my day 365 of womanhood, and Bud Light sent me possibly the best gift ever, a can with my face on it.
Oh, wow! Valley communities.
The El Paso, Las Cruces communities.
Eastern Iowa communities.
Mid-Michigan communities.
We are extremely proud of the quality, balanced journalism that CBS 4 News produces.
But
we are concerned about troubling and irresponsible, one-sided news stories plaguing our country.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
And all the distractions in this world, they are in different degrees. You have the distractions that are super low degree, like, drugs and alcohol and partying and, all that. That's super low distractions. TV and entertainment and movies, that's not as low as all that. It's a little bit up. And then you have a higher distraction. You could step into some religion or some kind of a church. And ultimately, it is a distraction because most churches and most religions ask you to look out there somewhere. Look to God out there. Look to Jesus over there. Look to Muhammad over there. Look to somebody else. But the true teachings of the masters, the true teachings of Christ, what does Christ tell us? He says, the kingdom of God is within. What does Shakyamuni Buddha tell us? He tells us to look within. What does Sri Krishna tell us? Krishna tells us to meditate, to look within. And so when we shift our priorities, we become this spiritual person and we begin to do the work that puts us on the path of wisdom that leads us home to liberation. And the way home is inside. What happens when we begin to embark down this path is our intuition, the volume gets turned up. And now we discover that we have some sort of a GPS satellite navigation system that we had no idea we had before. Because you're no longer second guessing whether you should move to Austin or you should go on a second date with this girl or you should marry this guy. You're no longer second guessing yourself whether you should take this job. You see, because when you step on the path of wisdom and your life becomes spiritualized and you commit to your sadhana, your spiritual practice, which has everything to do with your meditation, with yoga, keeping your body fit, eating healthy food, speaking right, spiritual studies, community service. When you step onto that path, what you're going to find is it's not just a path. It's not just hopes and dreams. It is spiritual science. And through spiritual science, just like any other science, chemistry, biology, when you apply an experiment, you get repeatable results. And what the masters have told us, what the masters have taught us, what the masters have exemplified is when you begin to take yourself down the path of wisdom, again, looking inside, you begin to awaken to the truth of who you really are, which is not this body, which is the consciousness that dwells inside of this body that is experiencing this life through the thoughts, through the emotions, through the touch, through the feel. You are experiencing this, but you are not this. So once you get tuned into that, a certain degree of fear about death and dying and dropping this body incrementally begins to fall away. And when the fear of dying begins to fall away for you, what you're going to find that simultaneously begins to increase in you is your confidence. Confidence that comes from the experience of touching something that is real and eternal and true, which is your true divine nature, your higher self. And so how do we get there? We have a number of different modalities and practices, but today we're going to turn the microscope and focus just on one specific, because we've got our nutrition, you've got your yoga practice, you got physical fitness, you got to take care of your body, you got meditation, but we're going to shift ourselves over here. And I want to talk to you today just for a couple of minutes here about your breath, because most people don't know how to breathe. Most people breathe unconsciously, but if you hadn't known already, your breath, pranayama, the very life force, is a tool that you have access to keep yourself in alignment. In alignment with what? In alignment with nature. In alignment with your path. In alignment with your priorities. In alignment with the spiritual life. You see, because everything that happens to you in this life, all the experiences that you have, you're either pushing them away or you are clinging to them. And a smart human being, a yogi, does neither of those things. When you get fired, when someone yells at you, when you get embarrassed, you don't push it back down because you don't want to feel it. You don't run and grab a bottle and drink yourself into oblivion until you forget. You don't push it down. When you meet someone new and you fall in love and you have all those warm feelings, you don't cling to that person. When you get a new job and you get a new raise, you don't cling to it. It doesn't become your identity. Not if you're smart. If you're a regular person out here, then yes, you're going to start to identify with that. Your ego's going to get blown up. You're going to start to identify with this other person that you're dating, and they become your whole life, and now you can't be separated from them, and now you're suffering. But the wise person does neither of those things. No pushing things away and no clinging. When we do that, when we allow the emotions to wash over us, when we learn how to process life as it happens, we're no longer pushing things down. In other words, we're no longer storing shit inside of our conscious field of experience. And that's important because living in such a way, no longer pushing things away, no longer clinging, is what keeps you clear and clean so that you stay connected to your higher self, so that you stay connected to that global positioning satellite system, your navigation, as we were talking about earlier. And right now, you've already got a bunch of stuff inside of you from the time you were a kid. Remember your dad yelled at you, you got in a fight at school, somebody broke up with you, you got embarrassed, whatever, you got in a fight at school and you lost the fight, whatever. All the stories you have from your past, being embarrassed, people yelling at you, the bad breakups, it's all still inside because none of us know how to process this stuff. But we learn to use the breath. We learn to use the breath, and the breath clears all that bullshit out. And if you don't believe me, you don't have to. But I will extend an invitation to you to come participate and discover the medicine of the breath, this medicine that you have access to at all times, this medicine that can clear and bring balance. And what's so beautiful about it is when you use the breath, especially like this Saturday at our breath workshop in Sound Bath, when you use the breath and you're in a sacred space and things start to come up for you, oh my God, it feels like I'm going to start bawling my eyes off. Oh my God, I feel like I'm going to scream. And you actually let it happen and you don't push it back down, and you understand that if it's coming up, then it's coming up for a reason. And if you let it come up, one of the coolest things about the breath and when things start to come up is that it's been in there all this time and you had no idea. And when it comes up, it's such a surprise. But when it's over, when it's gone, when you process it, when it's done, it's freaking done. And you are lighter, you have more levity, and you have, to whatever degree the thing that came up was you're closer to your higher self. You're closer to your intuition. You're closer to source. You're closer to power. You're closer to confidence. So real spiritual work, a real spiritual practice, a real sadhana, it starts with you looking inside. And the breath helps us to look inside and see clearly what's going on. So I want to end this video here. I don't want to talk on too much, but I'm going to extend an invitation to you for this Saturday at Indigo in Highland Park. I'm doing a 2-hour sound bath and breath work. We're going to be singing and chanting and breathing deeply. And then I'm going to walk you through the most beautiful ecstatic breath practice. And you're going to experience for yourself exactly what can come up for you. And you're going to leave this breathwork and sound bath lighter, with a smile on your face and with new tools, so that you can use this at home by yourself, so that you can maintain your balance, so that you can maintain your connection. To RSVP for this Saturday, go to michaelfireborn.com, and then you can get your reservation in there. It's a limited event, so there's only a few spaces left. If it is sold out by the time you get there, then I will put you on the wait list for the next one. Alrighty then. Oh my goodness, my knees. This is a real treat for me as a teacher and an instructor, because that's what it's all about. We're here to lift each other up. The meek shall inherit the earth. And meekness is cultivated when we go inside. Meekness is cultivated when we actually engage in spiritual work, in a spiritual practice, in our sadhana. And so I really, really hope I see you this Saturday. It's going to be beautiful. And if I don't see you this Saturday, we have plenty more coming up. Namaste.